What's up, Reapers? My name's Seth, and today we're going to be taking a look at MapleStory 2. Lots of people have been asking me as I've been talking about this game more recently, what is this game? What is it about? Why is it so cool? And why do you keep talking about it? So that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Most of all, this is going to be kind of a beginner's guide, but honestly speaking, folks, going into this, you do got to know that I myself am a bit of a beginner. So today we're actually going to be playing on the Korean server. This game is going to actually be coming out to the global server, which is going to be North America, Europea, and you know, a bunch of other countries that are going to be included as well. But up until this point, MapleStory 2 has already been released for a few years now on both the Korean version and then the Chinese version as well. So a lot of the things that you see in today's video may or may not end up making it into the version that we're all going to end up getting for the American or English version of the game, right? So more notably, in the character selection screen, if we end up creating a new character, I don't think that this is going to end up being in the game right now, like when we end up getting the global version, but it's cool to see that later on we are going to end up seeing this. Originally, we're going to end up having the 8 classes to start with. So there's going to be the knight character, which is going to end up being very tanky. From what I've been reading up on it, you can actually end up soloing a lot of bosses at the end. It's a very good utility class where you end up using defensive capabilities and stuff like that to end up helping your entire group rather than just playing it all solo, despite the fact that you do still have options to end up going it alone if you want. The knight can end up being very, very devastating just because of the fact that you can end up outliving most anything that you end up fighting. And we'll kind of talk about what I've read about for the end game and stuff like that. But again, I don't really have that much personal experience with it. So most of this is just what I've ended up reading online and gaining knowledge for, because I want to give you a brief idea of what each of the classes is going to end up being like, kind of, right? So the wizard is going to end up being completely AoE. I have seen people use wizards in endgame raids, so it definitely is a character that is viable for it. For the most part, it's going to end up using different elemental attacks that are going to end up utilizing, as you can see, the battlefield to kind of slow down enemies and then do ice crushing down on them, or lightning and fire, tornadoes, and it's very, very beautiful character, right? Because of the amount of AoE crowd control that you end up having. Each of the characters normally will also end up showing their range of difficulty, which, you know, possibly is just not in the game anymore. Maybe that was only on their website. But when I say that this is not going to end up being in the game when we get it on the global version, because normally we're going to have to start out as a beginner character or a novice, and then you have to get to level 10 before you can end up choosing your job. And a job in MapleStory 2 is going to end up being your class. Whereas now with this version that I'm running right now, which is the Korean version, you can see it's way ahead of what we're going to end up getting, where we've got 3 new classes and you get to choose your starting class rather than going through the monotonous task of starting as a beginner. So the archer character I've seen has insane amounts of DPS if you end up actually building it correctly. I love the crowd control that the class ends up having. A lot of MapleStory 2 really reminds me of a blend between what we've experienced with the game Trove as an MMO, but more traditional MMO gameplay aspects are added to the game as well. I would say that this is actually more on par with a chibi online version of Diablo 3, because if you look at like the, you know, the archer right here, it looks very, very much like the demon hunter with their capabilities and stuff. Thief, from what I've heard, is a more technical type of character. One of the only classes in the game that actually has 2 dash abilities. Every character in the game is going to end up having a movement ability, which is utilized for dodging boss techniques and stuff like that. But the thief apparently is the only one that's going to end up having 2 abilities and can end up being pretty high DPS in the end game, from what I've seen. Now, a lot of the things that I'm talking about right now are going to kind of be what's going to progress over the next following months, if not years, of the global version. So we've actually seen, like, the knight, for example, is kind of like, as we get the global version, I don't really think that the knight's going to be as useful as I've seen more people talking about recently in the Korean version. I'm pretty sure that the character just kind of ended up getting a rework, not to mention the berserker, which is one of the all-time most popular classes in MapleStory 2, or at least it was when the Korean server was hustling and bustling with tons and tons of players. This is going to end up being one of the highest DPS in the entire game, if not the highest DPS in the entire game. Outside of the fact that you are going to end up being a glass cannon, you will have a self-heal ability, but a lot of that's got to do with like bleeding through enemies and to heal yourself and stuff like that. Berserker is going to be a character that I'm sure is going to end up being mandatory for the late end of the game, and it just looks beautiful, doesn't it? Like jumping around and doing kind of barbarian techniques that you would see in Diablo 3. The priest Single-handedly, it's just going to end up being a healer utility class. It does have damaging abilities that you can use, but you're not really going to be able to solo anything from what I've heard. It's just going to end up being a class you single-handedly are going to need in certain raids because of the ability that it has to heal and keep your allies alive. So skipping on to the heavy gunner, this one is going to end up being a very unique, very weird class that also is very high in the DPS, regiment, which I'm going to kind of explain the differences of each of the characters and why people, like how people end up grading their difficulty with actually building them for the end game. But for the heavy gunner, you're going to kind of see in the little preview right here, unfortunately it's a little dark. I'll try my best to brighten it up in editing or something, but the character's got lots of backing, back jumping abilities, back dashes, laying down traps and stuff like that, kind of utilizing the battlefield, and ends up being a very techie type of character. Not really my favorite type of class, honestly speaking, but it's cool that the game actually does offer that. And then Assassin, I would say, is actually right under the Berserker from what I've heard, as far as a DPS character is concerned. Outside of, a lot of people would argue that the Assassin is actually better than the Berserker because of the fact that you have ranged abilities and you can actually stay at a range, which your abilities are going to end up being fairly cool, if I do say so, throwing giant shurikens and basically being a beautiful ninja. Now, again, as I ended up mentioning before, the global version of the game is not going to end up having the Rune Blader, the Soulbinder, or the Striker. So we'll talk about each of these characters as they end up slowly getting added to the global version of the game, because you can bet your butt I'm gonna end up doing a full-on Let's Play series of the game. I'm gonna be doing lots of live streams and stuff and playing MapleStory 2 right alongside Trove, right? So we're gonna skip over these characters today, and we're actually going to just skip onto a knight character that I already have kind of passed the tutorial. Or would you rather see me wandering around on a Berserker? I don't know, but I do want to show you just very briefly what the character creation is going to end up looking like. I hope that we don't end up dealing with problems. Yeah, we are going to deal with problems, unfortunately. So for some weird reason, if I'm running the English patch over the game, unfortunately, it doesn't let us have different options for customization. It kind of glitches out all of the colors and everything like that. I don't know why. So we'll save the character customization for when we've got the global version and I actually start like a new Let's Play series of the game. Until then, let's actually go into the knight, just because I kind of want to show his gameplay. I am going to be playing this game with a controller. It doesn't natively support a controller. I'm using Xpadder, which was a whole other issue entirely to try and figure out to get it to work with with Windows 10, like seriously. But otherwise, this is MapleStory 2, guys. Sorry that we ended up spending as much time as we did just in menus, but I felt that it was necessary as kind of a beginning guide tutorial to let you know about it. What this game essentially is going to end up being at the beginning is just a quest chain. So you're going to just be following the objectives, kind of going through the maps, fighting certain enemies that the game requires you to end up doing. Fighting. I mean, you're gonna end up dealing with lots and lots of cutscenes introducing the different characters, and at the early version of the game that we're going to end up most likely getting on the global, the global version, I don't think that each of the characters has their own storyline. I'm pretty sure that that is going to only be related to, when we end up getting the more recent version that just outright gets rid of the beginner character. So you can kind of see everything is just, it's all just a pushover right now. Like, every enemy is going to end up being extremely easy. You don't really got to deal with anything as far as the beginning of the game is concerned. You end up getting to raids pretty quickly, though, which I think is really cool, and generally the content is going to end up being very lively. All these cutscenes would actually have voiceover work, but I don't really want these characters talking over me, so, that's why we're kind of just not dealing with them. And also, you're going to see that we are dealing with a little bit of lag and kind of hiccups as far as the frame rate is concerned. Most of that's got to do with the fact that I'm pinging a Korean server, right? But either way, we're progressing relatively quickly. The game apparently is going to end up being a complete quest grind until you end up getting, oh my gosh, it's our first beautiful boss! Yes, he's awesome. And the cool thing is that, the progression is going to end up being basically a grind fest for questing. MapleStory 1 was more focused on just grinding enemies over and over again and stuff. Honestly, I wasn't really an expert at MapleStory 1. I never really got into the game. But in either case, with MapleStory 2, apparently you end up grinding to high levels, if not maximum, by doing quests. The global version of the game, we're going to end up having the max level be 30, I think. But as of right now, the version that we're playing on the Korean version, eventually we're going to end up having up to level 60 on the global version. I know that it's you know, version this, version that. I hope that you're all following here, guys, because I know that it can end up being a little bit endearing for me to just kind of keep repeating this over and over. But I want to make the distinct, you know, I want to make the distinct point that they are, you know, right now this is kind of a further along version, so a lot of what you see in this video might end up changing when it ends up going to you know, the English version that we'll end up playing with. But that doesn't mean that the core values of the game are going to end up being any different. So anyways, as you're completing quests, it's going to be very self-explanatory. They're going to tell you what to do, show you different experiences and stuff like that. You can end up tracking the quest, going to certain characters and progressing, blah, 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 blah. And eventually you end up getting to, I think somebody said on the Reddit, around level 56 or something like that. And then essentially you're just going to end up going out into the world and grinding specific areas on the map. So let's take a quick little peek at the world map here, because this thing's going to be absolutely gigantic. Go away, tips. You bother me. So the map is huge. It's a lot more expansive than when I originally started playing on the Korean version, so I'm not exactly sure, but somebody ended up mentioning that way in the top right. Apparently this is going to be the area, the Majesty Gate, where you're going to end up grinding for experience and stuff like that. And then I think there's a certain raid boss that you fight. This is the end game, by the way. A certain raid boss that you fight to end up getting like a rare weapon, and then other areas to end up getting legendary gear and stuff like that. Or you can end up using some type of a scroll that you have to buy from players or something in order to end up leveling up that weapon even more. I don't entirely know. And then there's also going to end up being, I think it's the Outlaws Overlook, or maybe it's Wallowwood or something. It's some type of a shadow area in the bottom left of the map, apparently, is where you'll end up grinding gems, and you'll end up grinding gem dust and stuff like this. And what you're going to essentially do with those resources is put them into your gear, so you're ultimately going to end up making yourself that much stronger, right? And while you're out grinding and stuff like that, like, this is where the fun begins. Never mind all the questing and stuff like that. That's just for solid grinding. The fun in this game is had with the community, because it's an old school MMORPG where you're going to be seeing hundreds of different players all hanging out in town. And just being able to interact with people. You know, there's going to be certain points in the game where people are just going to end up hanging out in specific areas. Obviously, it's not really the popular hours right now as I'm recording this. It's kind of, you know, dead time and stuff like that. But nice, lots of really nice ways that you can interact with each other. You can see all these characters down here hanging out are all playing like different instruments and stuff like that. So you can end up buying instruments. You can get into fishing, which apparently fishing is going to end up being a requirement as well. But it kind of has like a nice little fun mini game, and you can see all these people all talking and hanging out and really cool stuff, right? And then also a taxi. So this is going to end up being the fast travel system of the game, and the way that it's going to end up working is as you go out into the map and discover these areas for the first time, you can see like right, where is it? These are all just showing the helicopter, but you can end up going to this map, for example, or like the Lith Harbor right here. As we ended up going to this map for the first time, it ended up unlocking a taxi shop. So we could use the taxi right now that we're right beside with a bunch of Meso to end up, Meso is the in-game currency, to fast travel to this location. So, you know, traveling does not become as much of a chore until, you know, later on, because you're going to end up having all those fast travel points, which is nice. But that's kind of cool in that you have to go out and actually discover those fast travel locations, which I think is really neat. And then there's also lots of character customization as well, which is really cool, because not only is there like a full-on cash shop, which we'll look at that in a little bit here, but there's also going to end up being player custom gear. So you can actually end up taking the shape of a certain item. Man, these guys are playing really annoying music. Let's get out of here. You can end up taking, you know, like a dress or something like that, for example, and then you can end up customizing it just yourself. You can either take an image off the internet or just draw it yourself in Paint or something, or use Photoshop or whatever have you that you're used to, right? And then you can kind of customize that gear, make a certain palette over it, and then you can start selling it to other players. And they let you customize quite a few things. It's not just a few articles of clothing. You can customize some of the mounts, not really all of them, but some of them. And anyways, again, because this is supposed to be a beginner tutorial, there's going to be this guy right here in the starting of the area of the town. He's going to end up being the gear merchant. And the way that gear merchants work in the game is you can kind of see this thing right here. He's going to end up getting a new shipment of items in less than a minute, right? So if we hide all of the items that aren't usable by us, we can see that all he's got is pants, shoes, and stuff like that. If we end up spending 1,000 mesos, which we don't actually have on our character right now, we could actually force him to restock. So that can end up being, you know, a quick, easy way if you're just trying to look for some starting gear. But honestly, I wouldn't recommend that you end up doing that, because you're going to end up getting a lot of your good gear from either just the player market or just out grinding or doing raids and stuff like that, right? So then there's going to be the supply merchant, which this has got to do with like all of these other weird items, most of all to do with healing potions, because they're going to end up being the huge big thing that you're going to be needing a lot of in the game, like seriously. And as you're out adventuring, sometimes you'll see in the bottom right a mini game will show up, right? And then you can actually go to that mini game, complete a quest against like hundreds of other players that are playing the mini game right then and there, either racing against them or competing in quizzes or just, you know, other really fun, cool, challenging games, or even just PvP every now and then. And then you're going to end up getting mesos as a reward, as well as a couple other items if you end up actually being able to complete it on time or just do well enough for it. The game also does have, even though I've never ended up gotten into it, you can end up actually making yourself a house. So you can see right here, this is actually a player's plot. They ended up renting this place out, and I think, can we actually go inside it? Maybe we can't. Maybe this is just like a small plot where people can just kind of show off. But there is other areas where you can kind of customize your house and make like a big area. But the whole thing is that each of the blocks themselves are going to end up being very, very expensive in order to actually customize your house. So you gotta kind of keep that in mind. And then you can see at the top here, by completing certain goals, you're just gonna passively start getting certain pieces of gear and stuff like that, which is absolutely awesome. The game has insane incentive to just keep playing the game and just keep randomly doing things like the exploration goals right here. That's gonna end up giving us a lot of these different rewards and stuff. And it's really, really cool, dude. Like, I absolutely love it. So the other things too is there's gonna be the character menu right here, so you can get to see your character. Your outfit is just going to be your vanity outfit. Your gear is going to end up being the gear itself, but for some weird reason, oh, these are just vanity items. That's why they're actually, so I don't have any gear. Oh, okay. And then there's going to be cash shop gear, so you can end up putting that over top of your normal other outfit. Badges, which I guess are going to end up being like achievements and stuff. So fishing accessories changes the appearance of your fishing pole and fishing chair. Swim tube changes the appearance of your swimming tube and stuff. And you can see all the stats. You can change your motto. You can set your profile picture to be whatever you want. I just took a picture of this dumb NPC that I found out in the world. And it's really cool that you can end up doing all this stuff. You got to make sure, like, I don't know if they would say this is a bad thing, but you can use like custom pictures too that you can kind of use from the internet, and that's why they kind of have you sign an agreement and say yes, you're not going to end up doing anything bad, because you can do that for custom clothes as well. And if you end up doing that, you risk getting your account not only reported, but you can also get in trouble and have yourself not only locked out of certain content, you can actually get yourself sent to an in-game jail where you're gonna have to wait a certain amount of time before you can even play the game anymore, which is kind of cool. I kind of like that, you know. And then there's going to be the inventory, and more importantly, auto loot. Thank you, game, for reminding me. This is a feature that I don't think is going to end up being in the global version of the game, but is extremely cool that we know it is going to end up being in the game. I don't think it's going to be for us at day one, because as far as I recall, this wasn't here when I was playing the Korean version in 2016. But you can choose, like, you know, equipment, what tiers of gear you want to auto pick up and stuff like that, what different items you want auto pick up, etc., etc. And, you know, and you can dismantle items, lock items so that you can't end up actually doing anything with them. And really, really intuitive MMO. Like, they've already got like pretty much everything that you're gonna need in the first place. And then there's gonna be the skills, which we'll look at that in a minute. Let me just see if I can end up opening some of these windows here. The pets window. So this is gonna be kind of cool, a little bit of a Pokemon thing where you can end up, you know, leveling up your pet, renaming them. There's pet fusion, so you can, combat pets can be leveled through fusion. Try using a combat pet as a material to level up one of your other pets, so on and so forth. Very, very complex system. I don't even fully understand it. I'm sure it's pretty quick and easy. It's just I don't really understand it right now, especially because this is a lot of broken English, because it's just an English patch over the Korean version. But your skill system is going to be right here, and this is one thing that I think is awesome. You can reset your skills pretty much at any time, and as far as I've heard, it's absolutely free. You can just reset your skills no matter what. But the cash shop comes in play where you can end up buying a separate tab. So this is going to end up being a secondary skill tab, and you're asking yourself, why would you want to actually do something like this? Because for endgame builds, you are either going to have to reset your skills and pre-allocate all of your slots each and every single time you want to rebuild your character, or you can just buy a second skill tree that is going to end up being, your secondary build, right? And so on and so forth. So that's a pretty cool way that you can end up doing it. And then I guess I should also mention that it has a nice little description for all of the different abilities, yada, yada, yada. But then there's also going to be the macro settings, which I don't fully understand this. It's just talking about like certain hotkeys and stuff like that. Doesn't really apply to me because of the fact that I'm going to be using a controller here. But then there's also going to be, where is it? Last but not least, I wanted to take a look at, well, I guess there is the quest system, so I can show you guys this. This is going to end up being something completely vital. You can track all sorts of different quests and stuff like that. It can show you where you have to actually go. In most instances, it will actually have special things like this, the special Levy room, where you can actually click on it and then it'll show it on the map. But then in other cases, you can actually just click on a certain link and it might even teleport you to the map, or just take you to a link on the internet, like the actual internet, because it's really, really intuitive with this game playing in itself, but also in the real world, where a lot of things actually just end up opening up your browser, and then the game itself kind of has its own social media network in-game, kind of, because if we end up actually clicking on this little screenshot right here, profile picture, we can take this, go take a picture of anything. We can take a picture of little old Troy right there, which, whoopsie daisy, I didn't mean to set picture. Let's see if we can end up getting this to be a little bit smaller here. Take a picture of, not Troy, Tony. Okay, I'm a little bit slow to it, but you can see right there, it ended up making him show up. And then either way, you can take pictures, and that's going to be like your in-game screenshots and stuff like that. You can use that for your profile pictures. You can also use it if, say, for example, you're trying to take a picture of a piece of gear that you've customized. You might want to try and, you know, get like a nice little screenshot of like the jacket or something. Let's just say you take a picture of that, you throw it into the player market, and then players are going to be able to buy that from you, right? So then there's going to be the black market, which I'm pretty sure this is, yeah, the black market, this is where you're going to be buying from other players, I think, which we're not going to get into that right now, because I wanted to show you guys the cash shop itself, but I guess I should mention that there is a guild, there's a proper rating system, you can apply to be in players' guilds and stuff like that. Really going to be cool when we start experimenting with this stuff on the global server. As of right now, again, I have no experience with it, because, of course, it's all in Korean. But then there's going to be a mailing system, so you can actually send other players items and junk like that, which is really cool. A party finder, which is going to be all proper. Clubs, I guess, which is going to end up being separate from the guild. I don't exactly know what that is, but let me see. Where is... Oh, there's a beauty salon and plastic surgery. You go into those areas so that you can end up changing your character's looks, obviously, and then there's going to be the dye shop as well. Where is the cash shop? Like, seriously? I don't even know where it is. Premium Club? Check out many benefits of being a premium club member. Oh, okay. And then there's the player, or the cash shop market. Jeez Louise. So this is going to be for the actual, like, cash shop. The mushroom currency right here is going to end up being your actual, like, money that you spend on the game. So you can see in the top left, we got mesos, and then we got merit. I don't know if that's what they're going to be called on the live server, but you can use them to end up buying various things. I'm not exactly sure what the value is for the actual merits. Let's see what happens if we end up clicking get merit. So this is going to end up being, oh boy. So it's, what? It's 1,000 coins in order to get 100 merits or something? I don't know, but that's going to give you walkie-talkies and a bunch of merits and stuff like that. How do we add these coins? Oh, this is like, now it opened my browser, so this is going to be the actual cash shop, which I can't do any of that because obviously it's the Korean server. But either way, it's cool because you can get, like, there's all these premium items. Obviously, it's going to end up being very pay to win. It's a next-in game, so later in the game, obviously, you're going to end up using the cash shop in order to end up grinding through the game and stuff. But they got cool things like this, which is absolutely adorable. These are going to end up being limited time mounts and stuff like that you can, like, I think they end up coming back, but they're going to be available for a limited time. So I've seen certain mounts that are just absolutely beautiful and hilarious that you're going to want to definitely keep your eyes out for. But then there's also going to be certain vanity items. So this is going to change your sword into a flute. You can end up getting a shield for your, or a cat paw for your shield and stuff, or even this cool one right here. Obviously, I would have to change all the colors and stuff like that. I don't think that these are the colors that we're actually looking at. I think this is because we got the English version going on. But you can just see, as a quick example, you can make your character look cool. Like, you can seriously make your character look cool. Sorry about my dog in the background. She's absolutely crazy, but I got to get this video out to all you guys. And then there's going to be like different things, like here's a motorcycle right here, or a different colored motorcycle. You know, the cash shop list goes on, right? But either way, it's going to be really, really cool to experience all of this stuff when it ends up going on to the live server. As of right now, or not the live server, I mean the global server. As of right now, the way that this is going to end up working is the closed beta for global is going to be available May 9th, and it's only going to be available for a week. So I have my suspicion that the closed beta is only going to be available for that short period of time, because they're just going to be testing out the servers, and then otherwise the core game is already all there ready to go. And because of it, fingers crossed, we're going to be able to see the open beta actually come out within the next following months, if not just after May or even later in May. We don't really have a release on it or anything right now, but either way, absolutely excited about all this stuff, especially the fact that we're going to be able to have another free-to-play MMO out there that is gonna be so of quality. Like, seriously, this game is amazing, guys, and we've barely scratched the surface in this one short little video that's just kind of talking about the beginning. So hopefully I ended up covering everything that you needed to know about what MapleStory is and why you should actually be hyped about MapleStory 2. I just call it MapSap, by the way. And then for those of you that are veterans of the game that are coming from the Korean server, you can see me on the global server for sure. And hopefully I ended up actually doing justice to the, you know, to a beginner's tutorial for this game, so that everybody kind of knows what to expect as far as just starting out. But you can expect new tutorials to be coming out from me as I end up learning more and more about the game. You can see back there's actually another mount that somebody's using that seemed like it was carrying a second person. Yeah, there's two people in that, isn't there? That's so cool, because they got lots of things where you can interact with other players, including like instruments. You can play with other characters and stuff like that. And either way, there's lots of really cool stuff. So in any case, thanks for watching, everybody. Very much appreciate it. Don't forget to like, share, favorite, and subscribe for more daily content. I would very much appreciate it. And a link will be in the description for the website and everything about this game. You know, there's not really that much to go on right now, but I'm really, really excited that the English servers are going to be coming out, because there was a scare that they weren't going to come out in the first place, let alone that it ended up taking a couple years before it ended up showing up. Yes, there's kind of gliding mounts, but most of all, you just fly up in the air for a limited amount of time and then you end up gliding down, right? But in any case, if you want to support me, you can always use my, you can always sponsor my YouTube channel. Check links in the description for my merch store, where you can check out this shirt and a bunch of others, or you can check out Gawkbox, which is a way that you can donate to me for free. Man, I'm tongue-tied, seriously. Anyways, thanks for watching. Sayonara, and stay epic, everybody.